All right, we are now recording. Well, hello, everybody. I am having a conversation with Mr. Richard Grannon. It's a man that I met last summer in Warsaw, Poland, shared the stage with him, and also did an interview with him. He has very unique insights into human behavior. And today, we're going to talk about what I would call COVID fatigue and how our world has changed. We're going to talk about adjustment disorder and how we are going to right the ship that we are all on, how people are reacting. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you very much for having me, George. It's a real pleasure to be chatting to you again.
Yeah. Talk to me about people's adjustments to this new way of living, or what the media has called the new normal.
Yeah, the new normal. They do love their special terms, don't they? What I can see happening is a sort of an infantilizing effect where people are regressing back into childhood because there's a big threat, big parental figure, and then big directives, big injunctions. Now you stay at home, which for entrepreneurs and people who travel a lot like we do and do seminars and stuff, it's not that weird, really. I mean, you have periods where you would be writing, but for some people who work like a 9 to 5 and have the average job, like most jobs, you go to work, you sit in an office or in a shop and you work. It's really strange for them, and I think there was an initial elation. Really, secretly, there was panic. You can panic and be elated at the same time. I'm sure in all war type scenarios, people are panicking, but there's an excitement in the air to it as well. And then as time goes by, the inevitable consequence of having a very small world and having your world shrink, because it doesn't just stay the same, it actually shrinks as the longer you're in it. Anxiety and depression are the end result. There will be a tsunami of mental health issues off the back of this lockdown, for sure.
Yeah. And everybody manifests these issues differently. Some people, we saw a surge of stay-at-home fitness, a surge of how to get yourself in shape with just body weight exercises. Okay, so the fitness world kind of did well with that. That's cool. Kids are home now, sitting at the kitchen table being homeschooled every day. Mom and dad or husband and wife might be at the kitchen table or dining room table now looking at each other and not being distracted by their work.
Yeah.
And it's having an impact on relationships because now they're face to face for the first time in years. It's almost like empty nest syndrome. Now they actually have to deal with each other. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think I've on the outside, observing my friends, observing things with couples, there's clear indications that it's benefited some relationships. Some people have grown closer together. And you can see that it's just been the death knell for some people's relationships as well. There's families breaking up. There's people trying to move house during a lockdown, specifically because of relationship breakdowns. We know the data's already coming through. The domestic violence is going through the roof. The elephant in the room for any debate like this is we're not supposed to talk. There's two big taboos. You're not supposed to talk about class, and you're not supposed to talk about intelligence, but YouTube already hates me, so I don't know why. So obviously the people who are in the lower economic classes, less education and less money, who are living not just month to month, but week to week, they're experiencing the most stress. They have the least resources to fall back on. And because generally the IQ is lower, there's less reasoning ability to formulate solutions. So what manifests is more drinking, more drug use, and increased domestic violence, of course, is the end result. It's really sad. It's a very, we can't see it though. It's all going on invisibly, and the media is not covering it. But right now, I assure you, across the poorest parts of America and the poorest parts of UK, Canada, all across the world, bad things are occurring right now under the cover of the lockdown.
Those of us who have cut the umbilical cord with the government and big daddy government, big brother, we're used to operating on our own. All of a sudden now we're thrown, those of us that are independent, we're thrown back into having to have a umbilical cord. We're waiting for a word from the government. We're listening to them. We're watching news like we never did before, even if it's doubtful. But now we're forced back into not being independent thinkers. And that's hard for those people who've cultivated that independent thought.
Yeah, it's what an incredible time to be alive. I mean, if we were talking in Warsaw last year and I said to you, American capitalism will be turned on its head and will be fundamentally a socialist state and it will only take 10 days, you would have laughed. I mean, that's a lunatic conspiracy theory, but here we are. Universal basic income for all, and bank bailouts, corporate bailouts, again at the behest of the taxpayer. No vote, no choice. Kids, this is what's happening. We're breaking open your piggy banks right now, and there's nothing you can do. And we're going to hand you a pittance of your money as a gift.
To get it.
Yes, and you will be happy to get it. Now smile. It's so, there's always going to be dark humor in a time like this, but my God, how humiliating. I mention America because it's the cornerstone, it's the powerhouse of capitalism in the world. We follow, as Britain, we follow right in your footsteps. Most of the Western world does. But when it happens to America, in America, I'm like, we probably should be a little more agitated than we are at the moment. As I'm observing the response of people, I'm like, wow, the response is quite surprisingly passive at this point. It won't be for long, but so far it's been passive. But you asked me about the psychological effect of that. It's humiliation. We're being humiliated, completely humiliated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and they did it without firing a shot, didn't they?
And this is the clever thing about humiliation, and it's something that Stalin figured out, and it's something that the Soviet regime used with great effect in all of its propaganda and in all of its psychological warfare. If you can humiliate the enemy, they won't fight for themselves because they don't have any self-respect. They won't even pick up a weapon. There's no pride. There's nothing to push back on. It's like, oh, well, I guess if everybody else is doing it, I'll just go along with it as well. And I am at the point now where I think it's likely that we've probably been submerged slowly and quietly in communist style propaganda for decades, quite deliberately. I'd always suspected that. But now, as you look at the chessboard, it seems a little bit more obvious that China's been playing a long game. They've been buying into Hollywood for years. I only found this out last week, pumping huge amounts of money into Hollywood. And, they have successfully propagated the worst elements of feminism, the worst elements of SJW and postmodernist culture. They've eroded the core values. They've eroded the boundaries of people's identity, national identity, sexual identity. And we're kind of we're a fleshy soup now of androgynous drones addicted to Netflix. So we're cooked. We're ready to be taken over.
What a great description, because they're eliminating everything that makes the individual an individual. Throughout this crisis, there's nothing special about us. We're all wearing masks when we go outside. Yeah. Some people have sewn their own masks, and we started seeing interesting little things, different fabrics, and people not wanting to wear the medical, surgical looking mask.
Yeah.
So we're seeing little bits of individualism. But overall, it's you will stay in the house. You will only buy one piece of meat if there is any meat in the store.
Yeah.
Cleaning supplies, you can buy one roll of paper towels, so one roll of toilet paper, and I'm finding it very strange. This is really weird for me. I've never experienced anything like this, and people who've come from hardcore communist countries have told me that this is what it's like living under communism.
Yeah. If you go Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Albania, Poland, Romania, where they had the Balkans was more socialist, but it was still a military dictatorship fundamentally. But yeah, where it was hardcore communism, yeah, this is they recognize this. They're like, well, yeah, this is the way it is. You queue for the pharmacy, you queue for bread, you queue for, and listen, there is a flip side to this that I would want to say to your listeners. It's not all doom and gloom. It reminds us of how fucking lucky we've been for years.
Yes.
We're very lucky. We're so with all the, you just flip your phone out and people bring you food. What do you want? I want gluten-free, Japanese, Thai, all the choice.
And you order on your phone and it's at your front door in 20 minutes.
Right. And that's great. But it softened us. If people want something to do at this time, they should really look at their lives and how they want to live and what their core values are. My hope is that the narcissistic psychopaths, I do think this is a narcissistic psychopathic agenda. I do think there's an overall plan, but usually narcissists and psychopaths underestimate the intelligence and the resilience of their target. And typically a psychopath gets caught because they overplay their hand. So I'm at home going, please let this be the moment where they've really overplayed their hands and people wake up. People go, oh, okay, this is not, like we've hit a point. What's quite scary is we can't go back. Like there's no, whatever happens now, we're either going to be in internment camps, we're going to be in full-scale like techno-communism with microchips getting scanned in order to buy stuff, or we can push back. And we can still push back. It's not over. The goose is not yet cooked, but we must push back against the kind of measures that they're looking to put in place.
I've been hearing about meat shortages, food shortages, and I think that might be the next, and only in the past like week or so, and I think that might be the next level of control.
There's a mutual person that we both know who's a speaker at the convention in Warsaw, who's Piero, and he understands it. Yeah, good dude. And he was saying, as he explained in a seminar, food delivery across the world now is just in time. So there's just enough for the supermarket, just in time, so that nothing rots, so that you maximize profit. And I was talking to him, I saw him in Geneva at the end of last year. I went over to visit him. And I said, before all of this happened, I said, where could you see that being a crisis? Would that be a problem in the UK? And he said, the UK maybe, but the UK is geographically a small country. He said, it's America, where trucks have to cover just huge swathes of land. You can't fly it. You can't boat it. It's trucks. It's trucks and trains. And he said, if there's a wobble in the delivery system, which is quite fragile, there'll be problems. There'll be food riots. I mean, it'll be bad.
Yeah. What about feelings of impending doom? There are some people who they're just carrying this anxiety in them, worrying about the future.
Yeah.
How would you talk to them?
I would say, in life, it's a hard philosophy I would bring to that question, and it's more of a philosophy than a psychology I'd bring to that question. In life, there are two choices when a threat is present. We can either demand, like a Karen, or hope, like a child, that the threat goes away, or we grow in proportion to the threat so that we meet it in a way that is intelligent and allows us to survive. The impending feeling of doom and the anxiety is actually people trying to cling to the old. If you can let go of the way it was, grieve it, and just say, okay, Look, the truth is, whatever happens next, we're never going back to the way it was. Once you've accepted that, there won't be a feeling of impending doom, but you must be courageous now. You must be disciplined now, and you've really got to push outside your comfort zone, because the threat is right here and it's real. But there's only, as I say, the philosophy is there's only two responses. You hope it goes away, or you demand Big Daddy, Big Mummy makes it go away, which is the Karen SJW psychology, which weakens everybody and strengthens government, which is not good. Or we say, right, let's go back to who we used to be. I mean, all of the tough people in Britain went to America and formed a country. So I'd like to see that philosophy come back, the rugged individualists, the people who are ready to meet that challenge. But we've been softened for years, so now we need to come back to that courage and to that strength, and to meet this threat head on.
Describe for me, in this new environment, what would a rugged individualist look like? Describe or define rugged individualism now.
If you are trapped in toxic passivity, you are the opposite of rugged individualist. If you're hoping this is going to be fixed for you, you're stuck in the opposite of rugged individualism. You're stuck in toxic passivity. And this mode of being, we've been soaked in this ideology since birth. You know, it's like everything is given. It will be given. Wait, don't act. Wait, it will be given to you. Go to school, submit, open your brain, let them pour their crap in, spew it back out. We'll give you a job. What kind of a job? Don't worry about that. Just go. You know, it's all on somebody else's terms. This kind of rugged individual I'm talking about is being proactive. It's being solution focused. It's thinking 3 steps ahead. That's what, you know, that's what people used to have to do as a matter of course. And it's a generational thing. They're not that long gone, the people who lived and died on those rules. I mean, it's only really like the people who fought in World War II. They would have been, in my view, the last survivors of that kind of a mindset. And that's really what we need to be embodying at the moment. We need to be embodying being responsible adults who are going to take care of ourselves. Don't sit at home shaking, because if you do, the big other who's going to come and save you is going to be a little psychopathic nerd who wants to take over the world called Bill Gates, who's bought, you know, all of these medical corporations, the medical research people, and poured millions into mass media to convince everybody that this is a huge threat and there's only one solution and he has it, you know, and that's not good. So I don't want people thinking, oh, someone saved me from the big threat. Study it, learn about it. Where's all the government adverts telling us to strengthen our immune system? Where are they? Where are they saying it's time to lose weight? You're at home, you can train, lose weight, eat better, get strong, do your cardio, strengthen your lungs, you know, don't cough into each other's mouths. You know, there's no messaging saying be strong. Never. It's never be strong. It's be patient, wait, we'll fix it. And that doesn't make sense to me at all in the face, if this really is the threat it's supposed to be. Because in times gone by, when it was the Nazis or it was the Japanese and it was the axis of evil, we were expected to be strong. They were like, well, it's not what you wanted. You're a carpenter, but we need you to put on this helmet and go and shoot some people. Can you do that for me, lad? On you go, get on the boat. And that was it. So it's a mindset of strength that we need now.
What I call conformity, you call toxic passivity, and I think they are the same. And I think they are both toxic. I like your term better. I actually like that, because it actually, the descriptor toxic really says it all.
Yeah.
1 month ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. This conversation is apropos to what's happening now. 1 month from now, we're going to have a different conversation. Would you be willing to have another conversation with me in a month?
Yes, absolutely. If we're allowed, if it's permitted.
Isn't that something? If we're allowed, can you, for the first time in our lives, we're saying that if it's going to be okay, if we're allowed.
Yeah. So your viewers, you're probably aware there's a very famous British conspiracy theorist called David Icke, and I just did some work for him a month ago, literally 2 days before the lockdown started. I just finished working with David's son in Derby, and today he has been banned from Facebook. He had 1 million followers on Facebook. He's banned. 2 weeks ago, he was kicked off YouTube with Brian Rose of London Real. Yeah, just for talking, just for talking, just for having a conversation, exchanging ideas, which YouTube said were the wrong ideas. And I would say, well, so what? If I want to sit there and say I believe pink unicorns are going to pop out my bum hole and fly around, so if I'm wrong, why silence me? There's loads of crap on YouTube with people spouting all kinds of gibberish. But that was the one, in an unprecedented move, they deleted the videos and they banned Brian and David. They closed their Vimeo accounts, and now David's kicked off from Facebook. So, you know, we have to consider the possibility that that wouldn't be allowed. I mean, it wouldn't be allowed by the CCP in communist China. So why should we assume we're going to be
right?
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, what makes us any different? You're right. Yeah, I know Brian and David are going to have some kind of, they're coming together this coming Sunday, I believe, live on some platform. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be good. It should be good. I'm hoping some point in the next 2 weeks to interview David. But I mean, you know, as I say, at this point, all joking aside, I mean, we were talking before we went live, like YouTube has really changed. It's dramatically changed, again, in a very short space of time, so fast that you can't quite gather your breath, which is a great tactic. I mean, you see this in MMA. You'll have some people who, as soon as the bell goes, they just maul their opponent, and their opponent's like, no, we're supposed to tap each other for a couple of rounds, get the range, and then do this. And they're like, no. Yeah, they just overwhelm them before they can think. And it feels like that. It feels like we're being rushed. You know, quickly, come on, quick, over here. Why? There's an emergency. Oh, there's an emergency. Oh, well, I'll just switch my brain off and do whatever you say. So yeah, absolutely. If we are permitted, I'd love to talk to you again in a month's time.
How can people find out more about you? How can they contact you?
My best place is YouTube, and it's if they just put in Richard Grannon YouTube, they'll find me. I have a ton of videos there about dealing with narcissistic psychopaths, the effects of psychological warfare, propaganda, and brainwashing that I'm sure they'll find interesting.
How appropriate. Thank you, Richard Grannon. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again in a month.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is. Cheers, George.